So, welcome to all the students present over in the session. We have come to the second unit, 8th lecture. The second unit, 8th lecture, it is about the types of analysis, that is ABC analysis, HML analysis, FSN analysis, VED analysis and SDE analysis. So, before going into the understanding of each and every type of analysis, we would have some understanding on this inventory management techniques and what is the importance of the inventory management techniques. Inventory has to be maintained at the minimum level. If the inventory is not maintained at the minimum level, it will add the cost in the overall production process. Now, that inventory, how we are going to manage, what way we are trying to reduce the cost, how we are going to cut short the level of inventory. For that, we have different types of techniques. In applying those techniques, the most important factor is different types of process will suit with different types of techniques. In a same company, for different production unit, they can apply different techniques. In same company, each and every technique has its own importance based upon the raw material which have been purchased by the organization. Now, the management techniques on the inventory are highly essential to understand about the method of the purchasing of the raw materials and the stocking of the raw materials. Now, all these techniques, what it will do? It will try to segregate the raw material, what they are purchasing. That raw material will be segregated by the different techniques based upon its application of the techniques as such. For example, if I take ABC analysis means always best control, right? Always best control has a ratio of 70-20-10, where 70% of the raw material cost only 10%, 20% of the raw material cost 20% and the 10% of the raw material cost 70%. Like that, every individual technique has its own applications. Now, the management of that inventory has to be such a level of importance, because as the example if I take holding of the material in the production organizations, like for steel plant, some 1,000 crores of rupees are stocked in the form of raw material, Now, when that level of raw material are stocked, when that huge quantity of raw material are being made in the blockage, that incurs the cost. What all cost? It incurs the carrying cost. Because more the inventory level, more the maintenance of the material, more employees are supposed to look out that particular raw material, more employees are supposed to be appointed to look out the raw material on a daily check. Now, all this will incur a huge cost. So, that is the reason while trying to understand about the stock level, while trying to understand about the management of that particular stock level, we have the most best 5 types of inventory handling techniques. Now, those are this inventory management techniques, which are 5. Now, as said that, though it seems very simple in terms of inventory management, right? Though it seems very less in the form of inventory management, now the technique of maintaining that particular inventory at the least level is the most important, which cannot be obtained by one best technique. It is an application of number of techniques which has to be enabled to obtain to that particular most best effective technique or inventory management technique as such. Okay. Now, the maintenance of the inventory at the least, that is at the minimum level, is the most important objective. Maintenance of the inventory at the minimum level of the stock is what is the most important objective, because that maintenance of inventory at the minimum level will provide the organization to have the maximum revenue. While having that maximum revenue will be possible by applying any one of the tool and based upon their approach of the raw material, Now, how they are looking that raw material as? Are they looking in the ABC analysis format? Are they looking that raw material in the HML analysis format? Are they looking that raw material in the other methods or modes of techniques as such? Whatever the mode or method of technique they are looking, in those formats they need to have the application, but the actual objective is to minimize the stock, and by minimizing the stock they will get the maximization of the profit. Okay. Now, so coming into the topic consists of the 5 most important types of inventory management techniques. They are the ABC analysis, right? The first one, ABC analysis, which is said to be always better control, where in the ABC analysis they go by the policy what we say as 70-20-10 principle. 70-20-10 principle. That means 70% of the raw material consumes 10% of the cost. 20% of the raw material consume 20% of the cost. 10% of the raw material consumes 70% of the cost. Now, in ABC analysis, this alone takes into the consideration of 2 variables, quantity, that is cost, and volume. Please understand, ABC analysis alone takes into the consideration of 2 values, one is cost and the other one is volume. So, cost and volume put together, it gives the calculation, whereas remaining all the 4, it has an approach of only one method of approach or based upon only one factor. The remaining 4 types of methods give the understanding of the inventory management. Okay. Now, as said that ABC analysis with related to 70-20-10 principle, it is the vice versa with related to the cost. That is, the volume is inversely proportional to the cost. Higher the volume, lesser the cost. Lesser the volume, higher the cost. That is the way they stock the inventory in case of ABC analysis. Next to ABC analysis, it is HML analysis. Now, HML analysis, H stands for high, M stands for medium and L stands for low. High, medium and low analysis, where it is been done based upon the word name defined, that is high, medium, low process, right. Now, how they look into the requirement of the raw material, is it very high, it is medium or it is low. Based upon that, the raw materials are being classified as such. Okay. Now, coming to the FSN analysis. FSN analysis stands for fast, slow moving, non moving. Based upon of the movement of the raw material, how fast the materials are getting moved in the consumption, on that process the progress of the raw material are being classified, that is fast, slow moving or non moving. Now, similarly, when we go to the next one, that is VED analysis, which stands for vital, E stands for essential, D stands for desirable, and based upon the raw material importance, whether it is a vital raw material, whether it is an essential raw material, whether it is a desirable raw material, based upon that the application of VED analysis happens too. And finally, when it comes to the last type of analysis, that is SDE analysis, that is scarce, difficult and essential or required as such. So, meaning is that we have the importance of the raw material based upon its availability or resources in the open world as such. That means, if the raw material is very scarce, we would stock in the form of scarce, and if it is difficult to attain, we stock in the form of the D as such. That is the different modes or methods of the techniques which are being used to calculate the inventory management, and all the techniques are equally important, but among all the techniques, the most important technique which we use very commonly is the ABC analysis. So, that is the always best control technique which we use in case of this particular kind of any kind of an inventory management. Okay. Now, coming to the next slide, we have the understanding, right. So, the ABC analysis, it is a technique of controlling inventories based on their value and quantity. This is the only type of inventory management technique where it takes into the consideration of both the value and quantity. In case of the remaining other 4 types of the inventory management techniques, it does not take 2 parameters into the consideration. Only ABC analysis alone takes into the consideration of value and the quantity. Both put together, it does the understanding of inventory management. That is why majority of the production organizations will try to use, would be using ABC analysis compared to remaining 4 types of inventory management techniques. Okay. Next to that, it is remembered as always better control, always better control, because it gives the priority of the raw material in such a manner which is 70 and 20 and 10. That is, if I take the value, and the quantity comparison, right. If I take this value, 70% of the quantity consume 10% of value, 20% of quantity consume 20% of the value, and 10% of the quantity consume the 70% of the value. Now, according to the importance of this particular organization, they give the importance for this. Next level of this is the first importance, second importance is for this, and the third importance is for this. That is the way they go the order, because it consumes overall. Suppose if total steel plant is having a stock of 100 crores of rupees, of that assume that how much, let us assume that it is 10,000, right, 10,000 tons, 10,000 tons, and under that 10,000 tons, 10%, that is 1,000 tons alone, right, cost how much? It will cost 70%, that means 700 crores will be cost. So, for that they give the importance, that is what the always better control does, right. Always better control makes the possibility of taking the control of the highest value which is at the lowest quantity as such, right. Now, coming to the third point, hence we obtain the quantity of inventory item consumed during the year and multiply it by unit cost to obtain annual usage cost. So, please understand here, the quantity of inventory item consumed during the year and multiply it by unit cost to obtain annual usage cost. What do we mean by this? The unit cost is been calculated, and based upon that unit cost the annual usage is being calculated, right. Based upon the unit cost, the annual usage cost is being calculated, because the calculation of unit cost only will give us a better understanding on the overall control, or else if we do not do that, the value calculation have a misleading, that means the calculation of the value may have some kind of the change in calculations. Next to that, the items are then arranged in the descending order of such annual usage. Understand? After we calculate, after the overall calculations are being done, now those which are being calculated are being made in the form of an ascending or descending order, which is annual usage cost. Under the annual usage cost, we are supposed to make a descending, which one? With related to usage cost. Please understand, with related to usage cost, right. Now, descending order is being made, that means this is given the first priority, this is given the second priority, this is given the third priority. That means the value is in the descending order, the value is in the descending order, annual usage will be on the other way, but the cost is, this 70% cost is given the first priority, that is the consumption of the quantity in the form of a value is given the first priority, 70% is given the first priority, and 20% is given the second priority, and remaining 10% is given the third priority as such. Okay. Now, coming to the fifth point, the analysis is carried out, by drawing a graph based on the cumulative number of items and cumulative usage of consumption cost. So, how we are trying to calculate this? This calculation is being calculated by annual, that is a cumulative consumption. This are being calculated based upon a cumulative, that is overall per year total quantity which is being consumed, among the total consumption what is the value which is been made or incurred is calculated, based upon that the total calculations is been calculated as such. So, meaning is that we try to identify, right, we try to identify based upon cumulative usage and consumption cost, right. So, the cumulative cost and consumption cost. So, cumulative usage, total usage, that is for annum usage, and for that whatever the cost is incurred, we would try to calculate. As said, ABC analysis is one of the best among all the inventory management techniques available, and that is the reason majority of the organizations use the ABC analysis. Now, we will see in the representation of the diagrammatic format. Alright. Now, if you see this level, what does that mean here is the value are been classified, that is the total stock or the raw materials are classified into A, B, C, right. The total category of the raw material are classified into A, B, C, and we would have a descending order according to which one? According to the value. We have seen just now in the point which we have been discussed that we would be calculating the particular process of the calculation always best control or always better control based upon value. Value will be descending, means we give the first priority to 70% of the value consumption, second priority to the next 20% of the value consumption, next 10% importance will be given for the third priority, which is 10% consumption as such. Now, volume percentage, it is in the reverse order, that is more we are been consuming, it will have a lesser cost, we have a lesser cost. Now, how is the importance of the control? How the importance of the control to be given? The importance of the control to be given in such a way that, right, the importance of the control should be given in such a way that the 70% of the value, whichever it is, it has to be given with a high value of importance or high importance level as such. That is, the concentration or the control should be very strict in the 70% of the value consumption of the raw material. Next, it should be at the moderate level in case of the 20% consumption of the raw material, and it should be or it will be at the least or the low at 10% of the consumption. Now, if you see in case of this, if you see in case of this, you can understand that, right. Now, according to the category, we would classify according to this. So, any raw material has been classified under A, B, C categories, A, B, C categories, and A is what? A is the highest value, right. In terms of value, it is highest, but in terms of quality, the volume, it is the least. It is the lowest value. That means 70% will lead to 10%, 20% will lead to 20%, and 10% will lead to 70%. This is cost and this is quantity, right. This is cost and this is quantity. Now, we would understand it, that is the as. So, importance of ABC analysis is given based upon the value descending, highest value is the first priority, next value is the second priority, the next value it is the last priority as such. But any raw material according to the ABC analysis, we do classify into three categories, that is A, B and C. A with the highest value, B with the moderate value, and C with the least value as such. So, once we have done it, the volume how will it be? It will be in such a way that the 70% of the raw material, right, 70% of the raw material will be only 10%. That means 10% of the raw material will consume 70% of the cost. This is what is the understanding. Please understand clearly. 10% of the raw material will cost you 70%. 20% of the raw material will cost you 20% of the value. 70% of the raw material will cost you 10% of the value. So, among this, the most important first priority will be given to the 70% of 10% volume, right? 70% of 10% volume. Now, how importance we are supposed to give? A will be given with a very strict importance. That means the concentration of the organization will be very high at this particular level, because they will be concentrating on the A category of the raw material, which is 70% of the value. Whereas the second one, which is the moderate one, right, it will be given with the next level of importance in terms of maintaining or having the kind of a regulatory on the B category of raw material. And the last one, the least importance, is for the C category of raw material, right. So, this is what we understand from the ABC analysis classification of based upon the value and the volume diagram. Going to the next one, you will understand more in terms of the value and the stock, right. So, here as the diagram has been represented, you would understand, right, you would understand that this is what, right, this is the this is value, please understand, this is value, and the bottom one is cost, okay. Value, it is 70%, here it is 90%, and here it 10%, but in terms of quantity it is only 10%, it is only 10%, right. And this is the stock level, and this is the stock level, this is the stock level. So, under the stock level diagram, you have seen the classification based upon value, classification with the bottom level of axis in the form of quantity. So, you can see here, right, this is at the 90% of the cost, whereas 20% of the raw material. And finally, we have the last one, this is the 10%, remaining 10%, that is you accumulate to 100%, because value 70 is here, 70 plus 10 we accumulate to 90%, 90 plus 10 100. So, here 100% value and quantity is also 100. So, if you see the quantity here, it will be 10 and this will be 30 and this will be 100. Why? Because quantity has been increasing this way. See here, the value is this much. So, number of items percentage is 10. 10 for the first level, when we go for the second one, 10 plus 20, 30. So, again 30 plus 70 is 100 in terms of value. So, this is what in the representation of the diagram. So, this is the important which given by the consideration. This area has been given consideration most important by the organizations, and the next important is been done given by the organizations at this area, and the last important is been given at this particular area, that is 10% value, whereas 70% of the raw material. Understood? Right. Now, we will go to the next slide. Right. So, this is the representation of the same diagram and how it is been taken into the consideration. Say for example, the value is for 70%. In case of 70%, we need to be very strict with related to stock control, delivery check, it has been done weekly, and control report weekly, importance high, forecast accurate, control effort maximum, sources maximum. So, from this you can understand that for a category of raw material, an high concentration or very regular monitoring is been done. Weekly we are monitoring, importance is high, the forecast should be very accurate because 70% of the value is consumed for it, and control efforts are maximum and sources are also maximum. When we see in case of the category B, the category B category has the next level of the importance where we have a moderate, and in case of moderate where stock control. Delivery cycle, we have 3 months of a delivery cycle, and control report we have monthly control report, and importance it is moderate, and forecast it is estimate, or normally it can be estimated to a nominal level, and control efforts it is moderate, and sources it is more than 2, right, that is more than 2 maximum in case of which one, the first A category of raw material, whereas in the B it is very leisure where you can give the control upon the C category of raw material. Loose stock control, how effective it is in the loose level. Delivery cycle, it is 6 months once, and control report quarterly, importance low, forecast roughly, and control efforts minimum, and sources 2. Now, delivery cycle weekly is what? Since this is 70% consumption of the value, since it consumes 70%, what does that mean is 70% of the consumption, right? Alright, 70% of the consumption is there, no, this one, this factor. 70% of the consumption should be monitored weekly. That means the purchasing of the raw material will happen often because that is the consumption of 70% of the value. Instead of making your investment blocked like this, you do the purchasing of raw material every then and there, do the purchase of raw material every then and there, by which what will happen? The investment can be reduced to a large extent, which is incurring a huge level of quantity, a huge level of volume or value in case of this, whereas quantity is very less. You can reduce that quantity purchasing more frequently by investing very less amount in the form of value. That is what we need to take the positive in case of this. And second one, the next, it is the delivery cycle is 3 months. What do we mean by delivery cycle 3 months? We can give some cushion. We can give some cushion in terms of maintaining or managing that raw material, because here we can order the raw materials every 3 months once, or it can be within the 3 months duration, but never it required to have a weekly, needs such a very stringent level of requirement of the purchasing of raw material weekly. Whereas when we consider the last category of the material, that is the 6 months once, we can purchase this raw material 6 months once in a bulk level, which consumes only 10% of the overall value, right? And it need not have high importance, and because the value is 10%, but the total volume in terms of quantity consumes of 70% of the volume. Instead of concentrating more and more in that particular C category, it can be done and once in a while purchasing, so that the once in while purchasing will avoid our concentration in this, and to some extent it will avoid our concentration in this, and finally we would be able to have a huge concentration in the category A type of raw material. Right. Now, as seen the diagram, we have explained it about the process that this particular, as said, is a 10% volume and 70% value. Here 20% volume and 20% value, and 70% volume, 10% value. So, this is also called as the mostly it is also been analyzed based upon the usage of the Pareto analysis, which is called as 80-20 principle. So, the ABC analysis was also been taken into the consideration based upon the value which is called as ABC analysis as such. Okay? Right. We will go to the next type of the analysis, which is FSN analysis. Now, under the FSN analysis, this analysis classifies inventory based on quantity, right, based upon quantity, rate of consumption and frequency of issues and usage. So, you can clearly understand the quantity based on the quantity and rate of consumption and frequency of issues are the two most important factors on which the FSN analysis is being carried over. Now, under this, here is the basic depiction, here it is the basic depiction of FSN analysis, where F stands for fast moving, F stands for fast moving, and S stands for slow moving, and N for non-moving. That is, here as said that which one? The analysis classifies inventory based on quantity, rate of consumption. How the consumption of the raw material are moving in an organization, based upon that the raw materials are being classified, and as described, F stands for fast moving and S stands for slow moving and N stands for non-moving. Non-moving does not mean that it is not at all moving, but it is very rarely used. If it is not used, then there is no need of raw material at all in an organization. It moves, but at a very rare instance it moves. That is why it is called as a non-moving. So, how is the importance they give? The fast moving items that are frequently issued or used are the one which are very given most important, are the one which are given most important. Slow moving items are the issued which are less for certain period of time, and the non-moving items that are not used or issued for more than certain duration. So, how do they calculate or how do they classify the based upon FSN? They classify the FSN based upon the consumption. Regularly the movement of the raw material, they are classified into fast moving. To a certain time duration, when they take on, if there is a movement and such type of the raw material are being classified into slow moving. Even in that particular certain duration, if the product does not move or the raw material does not move, then it is being classified into the non-moving category, right. Now, this classification helps in establishing most suitable layout by locating all fast moving items near the dispensing window to reduce the handling efforts. So, you can see the reducing difference, the diagram, how it happens to be, right. Suppose if I take this as a storage unit, right, this is storage unit. Okay. Now, you can see here near the dispensing window to reduce the handling efforts. Now, what does that mean? Suppose if this is the entrance, right, if this is the entrance, okay, right. Now, if this is the entrance, how do I place the raw material? How do I place the raw material? These areas next this areas. So, I split 1, 2, 3. This is the nearest one. This is the nearest one, the next nearest one and the next nearest one. 1 will be placed with fast moving raw material. One will be placed with fast moving raw material, two will be placed with slow moving raw material, and three will be placed with non moving raw material, right. Three will be placed with non moving raw material. I would represent in the diagram, that is fast moving is being placed at this first level, which is very near to the door. This is the door which is there, right. So, near the dispensing window where we take the raw material on a regular storage unit or from any storage unit, in that process only we place the stock or the raw material. Now, second one, it is a slow moving, second one will be placed with a slow moving, right. So, the second one will be placed with a slow moving and the third one will be placed with a non moving. So, you can understand here, the non moving will be placed at a far of a distance in the location. So, how it is been classified? This is been classified based upon the rate of consumption and frequency. Please understand, this is been placed based upon the rate of the consumption and frequency as such, okay, right. Now, coming to the next type of the inventory management technique, that is VED analysis, right. Vital, essential and desirable, vital, essential and desirable. Now, if you take the first point, this is an analysis whose classification is dependent on the user's experience and perception, right. So, who is the user? The organization is the user, the manufacturing unit is the user. So, whoever is using that particular raw material, it depends upon their, right, their perception, it depends upon their perception that for which material they have been considering as a vital, for which material they have considered it as a essential and for which material they have considered it as a desirable. So, based upon that, the importance of the raw material is being classified and it is been segregated on those basis, and based upon that the inventory management is being done. So, if you see the second point, this analysis classifies inventory according to the relative importance of certain items to other items like in spare parts. So, how is it is been classified? If I take three spare parts or three raw material, among this three raw material, which stands to be the most vital raw material, that will be taken as the weak kind of a raw material. The next one, which is essential, the second category of the material will be taken into the essential, and the third one, whichever is there, will be taken into the desirable. If all the three are essential, all the three will be placed in essential. If all three are vital, then all three will be placed in vital. But in any given time, any organization will have a different types of raw material which are vital, which are essential and which are desirable. So, based on those parameters, we would classify the segregation of the raw material in the form of the vital, essential and desirable. And please understand, all this vital, essential and desirable are being based upon the perception of the manufacturer or based upon the perception of organization. In the third point, in the VED analysis, the items are classified into three categories. The items are classified into three categories, which are V stands for vital, inventory that consistently needs to be kept in a stock. That is based upon the stock, it has to be definitely there for the category of V, right. Without that stock, it may lead or it may end up in a kind of an problematic for an organization in terms of manufacturing or production unit. So, mandatorily the V category of product should be there in the stock, right, because the availability of that raw material cannot be there on a regular basis. So, when there is a very vital, you have to stock it, that vital, that means this is a very important raw material for an organization, important raw material for an organization. Based upon that, the classification is done. Important of the raw material is there, that becomes a vital. So, the stock of the raw material should be there always. Now, second, essential, keeping a minimum stock of this inventory. That means, whichever raw material is said to be as an essential, now that stock which is said to be essential has to be there in the minimum level, at least to the minimum level. If not, on higher quantity, there should be a stock at the minimum level. Next to the level of the essential, then comes the last one, that is the D, and D stands for desirable. D stands for desirable. Operations can run with or without this. That means we need it, but it need not be that mandatory that with that stock only the organization or operations will run. Without the essence of that raw material also, we can use an alternative of raw material to proceed the operations. So, that non-availability stock of this desirable will not stop the production process. Again, if this raw material is not available, that will not stop the production, it will have a continuation of the production. Okay. Now, these are the importance of the vital, essential, desirable, right, analysis. Okay. Now, coming to the next type of analysis, which is HML analysis, meaning, right, H stands for high cost, M stands for medium, and L stands for low, high, medium, low. That is based upon the cost factor. Based upon the cost factor. Now, what cost factor? HML analysis classifies inventory based on how much A, product cost or its unit price, right? Its product cost. So, what is that? In producing a product or in producing a one unit, what is the consumption of this raw material to that particular product? Understood? If you are producing this particular product, in the production of that particular product, what consumption of cost is there for this particular cost for in that particular product? If it is the highest for that raw material, then that is called as high cost. And similarly, if the cost is been medium or medium level, then that is called as a M, that is a medium cost as such. And the last one is what is the low cost. So, one product, every product consumes a raw material. Now, whatever the raw material is consumed to that particular product, and in that particular product, we split the raw material based upon the material cost which is incurred by that particular product in the form of high, medium and low, right. Now, why? Unit value is a basis of this analysis and not the annual consumption value. So, that is the reason we use the HML analysis in a different manner. Why? the unit value is a basis of this analysis. That means for a product we calculate, not for the total sale which we have generated, right. So, per unit value we calculate, so we are understanding based upon the root cause of a unit value, but not on the annual consumption value, because annual consumption value when we are doing, the importance of the raw material may have a changeover, right. Annual consumption, for example, because you would have consumed this particular product for only 3 months, next to that 3 months you have used some other product manufacturing. In that product manufacturing, the high cost product, high cost material can become the least cost in the next level of the product. But here when we consider that in case of the overall consumption value, then only we will come into the calculation of that parameter. But since we are not to go by the overall annual consumption value, we are supposed to go by unit cost or the unit price only. So, only to that particular product, whatever the cost is been incurred by the highest price of the raw material, that is been classified as the LH category of raw material. Now, whichever is a medium consumption of the cost, that is been classified as the medium cost, and the last one which is been calculated based upon the least consumption, that is been made as a low cost raw material. Okay. Now, we will see the third point. The classification is as follows: high cost, which is the item value with a high unit value. That means item with a high unit value among all the value of the raw material, this particular raw material has the highest unit value. Next, medium cost, item with a medium unit value, the second category of the raw material which has a consumption of a medium level of a value as such. Whereas, coming to the last one, that is the least cost, which comes under the item with a low unit value, item with low unit value. So, this is the HML analysis. Okay. Now, coming to the last type of analysis, that is SDE analysis. Right. Now, under SDE analysis, we have the first one. This analysis classifies inventories based on how freely available an item or scarce an item is, or the length of its lead time, right. So, what extent the lead time is taking to get the raw material when we order, that is what is the lead time. So, lead time is what? Once you have placed an order, to get that order, how much time it is taking to get that particular order, that time duration is what is called as lead time. Now, if the lead time is very high, then the product category will come under this case. If the lead time is to some extent nominal, it will come under the difficult. If the lead time is very less, it come under the easily available. So, under this category, we would understand that based on the availability of the raw material, based upon the ordering of the raw material, how much time does it consume to get the raw material, right, we would be classifying based upon that the SDE categories as such. Now, coming to the second one, this is how the inventory is classified. S stands for scarce items which are imported and required longer lead time. So, what is that? The scarce are one which are not available in a common, and we get that raw material where we have been acquiring in a very rarely, or we would have imported that raw material from some other areas where it has been not available as such. Now, coming to the second one, that is the difficult one, items which require more than a fortnight to be available, meaning we would get that raw material in a shorter duration, but not to that extent where the product or the raw material are not at all available. In such scenario, maybe from almost 1 fortnight to 6 months of a duration where you get the raw material, all such type of raw material comes under the category of the difficult as such. And finally, easily available, the raw materials which are being mostly are available and can be obtained within a shorter duration, a span of within a fortnight or 1 month or less than that, all such type of raw material comes under the easily available as such. And the last, this is based on the problem faced in the procurement where some strategies are made on purchasing, meaning all this once we have seen it, we would be trying to classify whatever the raw material are been available, whether it has to be imported since the scarce of the raw material, whether the raw material is been available within a short duration of 15 days to 6 months, which is the D difficulty, or if the raw material is available in more shorter duration which can be easily available, then it is been easily available as such. Now, any organization will actually come to the conclusion of what type of the method we are supposed to use. So, based upon the inventory management techniques, we have the 5 types of inventory management techniques, and we need to take the decision, and all the decisions have been taken by the production management or by the organization to apply which type of the technique are we going to apply. But as classified, ABC analysis takes into the consideration of 2 parameters. One, it is a value, and second, it is volume.